Life has a way of tricking us into believing that the harder we hold on, the safer we'll be. We cling to people because we're afraid they'll leave. We cling to opportunities because we fear another one may never come. We cling to plans because uncertainty terrifies us. But have you ever noticed something strange? The tighter you hold sand in your hand, the faster it slips through your fingers. The same thing happens in life. The harder you try to control everything, the more everything seems to fall apart. Think about it. Have you ever lost sleep over a future that hadn't even happened yet? Have you ever replayed the same conversation 100 times, wondering what you should have said? Have you ever worked yourself to exhaustion trying to force success, only to feel as if life kept pushing it further away? If your answer is yes, then what you are about to hear might completely change the way you see your life. Because according to the Stoics, the greatest prison is not built from steel bars. It's built from the illusion that you can control everything. And until you escape that illusion, you'll continue fighting battles you were never meant to fight. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who ruled one of the most powerful empires in history, understood something that most people never discover even after an entire lifetime. Real power isn't controlling the world around you. Real power is controlling the world within you. That's the lesson we're exploring today. Not another motivational speech, not another work harder message. This is something much deeper, a mindset that has guided emperors, philosophers, elite athletes, military leaders, and some of history's strongest minds for over 2,000 years. Because once you understand this principle, stress begins to lose its grip on you. Fear starts becoming weaker, and life begins to feel lighter. So before we begin, if you're someone who wants practical wisdom instead of empty motivation, subscribe to the channel and join thousands of people who are learning how to build an unshakable mind through Stoicism. Now, let's begin. 1. The invisible cage you're living in. Imagine a man standing in the middle of the ocean. He's terrified of drowning, so he desperately tries to grab every wave that crashes toward him. The more he struggles, the more exhausted he becomes. Eventually, he sinks. Now imagine another man in the same ocean. He doesn't fight the waves. He learns how they move. He floats when he needs to float. He swims when it's time to swim. And because he stops fighting the ocean carries him. Life works exactly the same way. Most people spend their entire lives trying to control things that were never theirs to control. They try controlling how people think about them. They try controlling when success should arrive. They try controlling whether someone loves them back. They try controlling tomorrow while completely ignoring today. Then they wonder why they're anxious, why they're constantly tired, why happiness always feels one step away. Here is the painful truth. It isn't life that's exhausting you. It's your resistance to life. The Stoics called this the dichotomy of control, one of the most powerful ideas ever created. Epictetus explained it simply. Some things belong to you, some things never will. Your thoughts, your choices, your discipline, your attitude, these belong to you. Someone else's opinion? Not yours. The economy? Not yours. The past? Already gone. The future? Never guaranteed. Yet most people sacrifice their peace trying to control everything on the second list. It's like trying to stop the rain with your bare hands. Impossible. And every failed attempt steals another piece of your peace. 2. Why modern life keeps you trapped. Look around. Every day you're told to chase more. More money, more followers, more validation, more approval, more achievements. You're taught that happiness exists somewhere in the future. If I get promoted, I'll finally be happy. If this relationship works, I'll finally feel complete. If people admire me, I'll finally believe in myself. But here's what nobody tells you. Every time you attach your happiness to something outside yourself, you hand someone else the keys to your emotional life. Now your mood depends on whether people text you back, whether strangers like your post, whether your boss compliments you, whether life follows your plan. That's not freedom. That's emotional slavery. The Stoics warned against this nearly 2,000 years before psychologists gave it a name. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "A person who depends on external events for peace will never truly be free." Read that again. Never depend on what can be taken away. Because if your happiness depends on something temporary, your anxiety will become permanent. Think about how true that is. Two people lose the same job. One falls apart. The other calmly begins searching for new opportunities. What changed? Not the situation, the mindset. One believed life had ended. The other believed life had redirected them. Same event, completely different reality. Because events don't create suffering, our interpretation does. That's why two people can experience the exact same storm, yet only one feels destroyed by it. 3. The story that explains everything. Let me tell you a story. There was once a young archer who dreamed of becoming the greatest marksman in his kingdom. Every morning before sunrise, he practiced. Every evening after sunset, he practiced even more. But no matter how hard he trained, whenever an important competition arrived, he failed. His hands shook, his breathing became uneven, his arrows missed the target. Frustrated, he sought the oldest master in the mountains. "I've trained harder than anyone," the young man said. "So why do I always fail?" The old master smiled. He handed the young man a bow, but no arrows. "Draw the bow." The young man did. "Now release." "But there's no arrow." "Exactly," the master replied. "Today, your body moved perfectly because your mind wasn't obsessed with the target." Then he looked directly into the young man's eyes. "The moment your happiness depends on hitting the bullseye, fear enters your hands, and fear always ruins precision." The young archer finally understood. His enemy had never been poor technique. His enemy had been attachment. From that day forward, he stopped shooting to win. He started shooting because he loved mastering the craft. Months later, without even realizing it, he became the greatest archer in the kingdom, not because he chased victory, but because he stopped chasing it. Isn't that exactly how life works? The interview goes better when you're relaxed. Relationships become stronger when you're not desperate. Opportunities appear when you stop forcing them. The greatest paradox of life is this: sometimes the only way to receive what you want is to stop desperately needing it. Most people spend their entire lives trying to control the wind, but the wise person doesn't control the wind. He learns how to adjust the sails, and that single difference changes everything. Because in the next part, we're going to uncover why detachment isn't giving up. It's actually the hidden weapon of the strongest people on earth. Once you understand that principle, stress begins to lose its grip on you. Fear starts becoming weaker, and life begins to feel lighter. But this raises an even bigger question. If we're supposed to let go, how do we stay motivated without becoming lazy? How do we trust life's timing without simply waiting for miracles?
Divine timing. Why life rewards those who refuse to rush. Have you ever felt like you're doing everything right? Working hard, improving yourself, showing up every single day, yet somehow nothing seems to be happening. Meanwhile, someone else appears to achieve success overnight. They get the promotion. They build the business. They find the relationship you've been praying for. And without realizing it, you begin asking yourself one dangerous question. What's wrong with me? That single question has destroyed more dreams than failure itself. Because the moment you believe you're falling behind, you stop trusting your own journey. You begin comparing your chapter 3 to someone else's chapter 20. And comparison is one of the fastest ways to lose inner peace. But here's something history quietly teaches us. The greatest oak tree in the forest was once just an invisible seed beneath the ground. For months, it looked like nothing was happening. No leaves, no branches, no signs of progress. But underneath the surface, its roots were growing deeper
every single day. Because nature understands something modern society has forgotten. Anything built to last takes time. The world has made you addicted to speed. Look at the world around you. Food in minutes, packages in one day, entertainment in seconds, answers with a single search. Everything around us whispers the same message. If it isn't happening quickly, something must be wrong. Without realizing it, we've become addicted to instant gratification. We expect muscles after 2 weeks. We expect confidence after reading one book. We expect wealth after one business attempt. We expect love after a few conversations. And when life doesn't move at our preferred speed, we assume life is against us. But Marcus Aurelius would probably smile at that thought, because he understood something timeless. Nature has never rushed, yet nothing important has ever failed to bloom in its own season. The sun doesn't rise earlier because you're impatient. Winter doesn't disappear because you're tired of waiting. A flower doesn't blossom because you keep staring at it. Life moves according to laws far greater than our emotions. The question isn't, why is life making me wait? The real question is, what is life preparing me for while I wait? The blacksmith's secret. Centuries ago, there lived a blacksmith known throughout his kingdom for crafting the strongest swords anyone had ever seen. One day, a young apprentice asked him, "Master, why do your swords never break?" The old blacksmith didn't answer. Instead, he placed a glowing piece of steel into the fire. Minutes later, he removed it, then struck it with his hammer. Again, back into the fire. Again, another powerful strike. The apprentice watched this happen over and over and over again. Finally, he asked, "Why don't you just shape it once and finish?" The blacksmith smiled. "Because if I stop before the steel is ready, it will look like a sword, but it will shatter the first time life tests it." Then he looked directly at the apprentice. And people are no different. Sometimes the delay isn't punishment, it's preparation. Sometimes life isn't denying you, it's strengthening you. Because receiving success before developing the character to handle it can destroy you faster than never receiving it at all. Think about famous athletes. Many became champions only after years of failure. Think about successful entrepreneurs. Most businesses failed before one finally succeeded. Think about wise people you've met. Almost every one of them carries invisible scars. Pain became their teacher. Delay became their training. Failure became their foundation. Without those seasons, they wouldn't have become the people capable of handling success. Why most people quit right before their breakthrough? Here's a pattern you'll notice in almost every success story. People don't usually fail because they're incapable. They fail because they become impatient. Imagine you're digging for water. You dig 5 feet. Nothing. So you stop. You move somewhere else. Dig another 5 feet. Still nothing. Again, you quit. Years pass. You've dug 10 different holes, each one 5 feet deep. Another person chooses one spot and keeps digging. 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet. Finally, water. Who's more successful? The stronger person? No. The luckier person? Not necessarily. The patient person. Consistency always defeats scattered effort, yet modern society celebrates excitement while quietly ignoring endurance. The Stoics never chased excitement. They chased discipline. Because excitement comes and goes, motivation rises and falls, but disciplined people continue moving, even on days when they don't feel inspired. That is why they eventually reach places most people only dream about. The hidden danger of comparing timelines. One of the biggest mistakes you can make is believing life follows a universal schedule. By 25, I should have this.
By 30, I should own that. By 40, everything should be figured out. Who created those rules? Society? Social media? People who don't even know your story? Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that every human life unfolds differently. Some people bloom early, others bloom late. Neither is better. A bamboo tree spends years growing underground before anyone sees a single inch above the surface. Then, within weeks, it shoots toward the sky. People admire its sudden growth, but they never saw the years spent building invisible roots. You're probably doing the same. Just because nobody sees your growth doesn't mean growth isn't happening. Every difficult conversation, every early morning, every sacrifice, every lesson learned from failure, they're all becoming roots, and roots always come before fruit. The patience that creates power. Seneca once wrote, "Great things are not accomplished by impulse, but by a series of small things brought together." Read that again. Not one giant moment, not one lucky opportunity, not one perfect decision. Thousands of small choices repeated consistently. That's how extraordinary lives are built. Patience isn't sitting on the couch hoping life changes. Patience is continuing to plant seeds even when the harvest is nowhere to be seen. It's waking up and doing the work even when nobody applauds. It's becoming the kind of person who deserves the future they're asking for. Because here's the truth. Life rarely gives people what they want. It usually gives people who they've become. Become disciplined, opportunities recognize you. Become wise, better decisions follow naturally. Become emotionally strong, problems stop looking like disasters. The future you're praying for is often waiting for the person you're still becoming. So here's something to think about tonight. What if every delay in your life wasn't life saying no? What if it was quietly saying, not yet? Because the strongest trees face the hardest winds. The brightest diamonds spend the longest time under pressure, and the greatest lives are almost never built in a hurry. But here's where Stoicism becomes even more powerful. If waiting is important, why do some people wait their entire lives and still never succeed? What's the difference between patient people and passive people? The answer might completely change the way you take action. Act with purpose, not desperation. Have you ever noticed something strange? The people who seem to chase success the hardest are often the ones who struggle the most, while others, who move quietly, patiently, almost effortlessly, somehow keep finding the right opportunities. Why? Is life unfair? Or is there a law that most people never understand? Here's the truth. Desperation clouds your judgment. Purpose sharpens it. And the difference between those two mindsets can completely change the direction of your life. Think about it. Have you ever made a decision while you were terrified? Maybe you accepted a job you hated because you were afraid of having nothing. Maybe you stayed in a relationship because loneliness scared you more than unhappiness. Maybe you said yes when every part of you wanted to say no. Fear has a strange way of disguising itself as logic. It whispers, "You don't have another choice." But that's almost never true. When your mind is desperate, it sees only one door. When your mind is calm, it notices 10. That is why Stoicism never teaches you to react. It teaches you to respond. Because reactions belong to emotion, responses belong to wisdom. The difference between a hunter and a builder. Imagine two men beginning their careers. The first,
Imagine two men beginning their careers on the very same day. They graduate from the same university. They have similar skills, similar dreams, and almost identical opportunities. From the outside, it seems like they'll end up in the same place. But 10 years later, one of them has built a life filled with purpose, respect, and financial freedom. The other is still chasing one opportunity after another, always feeling as though success is just out of reach. What happened? The answer isn't intelligence. It isn't luck. It isn't even hard work. The difference lies in why they worked. The first man wakes up every morning thinking, "I need to succeed, or people will think I'm a failure." Every decision he makes comes from fear. He works late because he's terrified of falling behind. He accepts projects he hates because he fears saying no. He compares himself with everyone around him. Every promotion someone else receives feels like proof that he's losing. His life becomes an endless race, and the finish line keeps moving farther away. No matter how much he achieves, it never feels enough, because fear has an impossible appetite. The more you feed it, the hungrier it becomes. Now look at the second man. He wakes up with a completely different mindset. Instead of asking, "How can I impress everyone?" he asks, "How could I improve myself today?" He isn't obsessed with becoming successful overnight. He's obsessed with becoming valuable. Every book he reads, every mistake he makes, every challenge he faces becomes another brick in the foundation of his future. He understands that skills compound, character compounds, discipline compounds. Small improvements repeated every single day eventually create extraordinary results. So while everyone else is chasing quick victories, he's quietly building permanent strength. Years pass. People suddenly call him lucky. They admire his success. They wonder how everything seemed to work out for him. But they never saw the mornings when nobody believed in him. They never saw the nights he spent learning while others were sleeping. They never saw the hundreds of small decisions that slowly transformed his life. Success didn't appear overnight. It arrived one disciplined day at a time. This is why the Stoics believed that your greatest investment isn't in money, it's in your character. Because markets can crash, companies can fail, fame can disappear. But wisdom, discipline, integrity, those are assets no one can take from you. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire larger than most people can imagine, yet every morning he reminded himself of something surprisingly simple. Do not waste the time you have worrying about becoming someone admired. Spend your time becoming someone worthy of admiration. That's the difference between purpose and desperation. Desperation asks, "What can I get?" Purpose asks, "Who must I become?" And life has a strange habit of rewarding the second question far more generously than the first. The final Stoic secret: master yourself, and life will never master you. So, here we are. We've talked about letting go. We've talked about patience. We've talked about purpose. But one question still remains. If we stop trying to control everything, won't we become passive? Won't we lose our ambition? Won't we simply accept whatever happens? At first, it sounds like a reasonable question. But this is exactly where most people misunderstand Stoicism. The Stoics never said, "Stop chasing excellence." They said, "Stop chasing what was never yours to control." There's a world of difference. Imagine a sailor crossing the ocean. Can he control the wind? No. Can he stop the storm? No. Can he command the waves to calm down? Absolutely not. So does he give up? Does he throw away the sails and drift aimlessly? Of course not. He adjusts the sails. He studies the current. He remains calm under pressure. He adapts. And that's why he reaches the shore. The foolish sailor fights the ocean. The wise sailor learns to work with it. And life asks us to do exactly the same. The greatest battle is invisible. People think life's biggest battles happen in boardrooms, on battlefields, or in moments of public failure. They're wrong. The greatest battle happens in complete silence.
It's the conversation you have with yourself when nobody is watching. It's waking up after failure and choosing to try again. It's resisting the temptation to quit. It's remaining honest when lying would be easier. It's choosing discipline when comfort whispers your name. Every single day, your greatest opponent isn't another person, it's the weaker version of yourself. The version that makes excuses, the version that blames everyone else, the version that waits for motivation instead of building discipline. Marcus Aurelius fought this battle every morning. Even as emperor, he reminded himself that ruling Rome meant nothing if he couldn't rule his own mind. Because what good is power over millions if you have no power over your own emotions? The story of the king who could control everything except himself. Long ago, there was a king whose empire stretched farther than anyone could see. He commanded armies. He controlled wealth beyond imagination. Thousands bowed before him every day. If he wanted a palace, it was built. If he wanted a road, it appeared. To everyone else, it seemed like he was unstoppable. But inside, he lived like a prisoner. One insult ruined his entire day. One criticism kept him awake all night. One failed plan filled him with rage. One small disappointment stole every ounce of his peace. One afternoon, an old Stoic philosopher visited the palace. The king proudly showed him his kingdom. "My people obey me. My generals fear me. My enemies respect me. Tell me, have you ever seen a man more powerful?" The philosopher remained silent. Then he asked a single question. "If your servant insults you tomorrow, can you choose not to become angry?" The king hesitated. "If your enemy spreads lies about you, can you remain peaceful?" Again, silence. "If everything you own disappeared today, would you still know who you are?" The king lowered his head. For the first time in his life, he realized something terrifying. He had conquered nations, but he had never conquered himself. And a man who cannot govern his own mind will always remain a servant, no matter how many crowns he wears. That is why the Stoics believed self-mastery is the highest form of power, because nobody can imprison a free mind. The prison most people never escape. Look around. Millions of people wake up every morning already carrying invisible chains. One chain is called comparison. Another is called regret. Another is called fear. Another is called approval. They spend their entire lives asking, "What will people think? Am I successful enough? Why am I behind everyone else?" Without realizing it, they're allowing strangers to control their emotions. Imagine handing a complete stranger the remote control to your happiness. Ridiculous, right? Yet that's exactly what happens every time your mood depends on someone else's opinion. Every criticism ruins your confidence. Every compliment determines your self-worth. Every rejection makes you question your identity. That isn't living. That's surviving. Epictetus warned about this nearly 2,000 years ago. He said, "No person is free who is not master of himself." Read that again. Freedom isn't having unlimited money. Freedom isn't becoming famous. Freedom isn't owning expensive things. True freedom is waking up each morning knowing that nothing outside yourself has the power to destroy your peace. That is real wealth. Life will test every lesson you learn. Don't expect life to become easier after hearing these ideas. It won't. There will still be rejection. There will still be failure. People will still misunderstand you. Plans will still fall apart. The unexpected will still arrive. But here's what changes. You change. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you'll ask, "How can this make me stronger?" Instead of panicking during uncertainty, you'll remember that uncertainty has always been part of life. Instead of trying to control every outcome, you'll focus on controlling your response. And that changes everything. because suffering often comes from wanting reality to be different. Peace begins the moment you work with reality instead of fighting against it. Think of bamboo during a storm. Massive trees often snap because they're rigid. Bamboo bends, it sways with the wind, and when the storm passes, it's still standing. Strength isn't always resistance. Sometimes strength is flexibility. Sometimes
strength is flexibility. Sometimes strength is acceptance. Sometimes strength is simply refusing to let circumstances change who you are. But there is one final truth that separates ordinary people from extraordinary ones. They understand that life is not happening to them, it's happening for them. Every setback carries a lesson. Every disappointment carries a hidden opportunity. Every painful ending quietly prepares the beginning of something greater. The problem is, most people quit reading the story after one bad chapter. They assume the ending has already been written. But life doesn't work that way. A single storm doesn't define the climate. One failure doesn't define your future. One rejection doesn't determine your worth. And one painful season doesn't mean you'll never see the sun again. The Stoics believed that fate doesn't ask whether you're ready. It simply presents the next challenge. And in that moment, you have only two choices. You can complain about the obstacle, or you can become the person capable of overcoming it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Think about those words. The obstacle isn't blocking your path. The obstacle is the path. The heartbreak teaches emotional strength. The failure teaches wisdom. The rejection teaches resilience. The loneliness teaches self-reliance. Without those experiences, you might gain success, but you'd never gain character. And success without character is one of the most dangerous things a person can possess. Because life can give you money without giving you peace. It can give you fame without giving you happiness. It can give you power without giving you purpose. That's why Stoicism has survived for more than 2,000 years. Because it doesn't promise an easier life, it promises a stronger mind. A mind that remains calm when everything around it falls apart. A mind that chooses wisdom over panic. A mind that cannot be controlled by fear, anger, or the opinions of strangers. Imagine waking up tomorrow knowing that no insult could steal your peace. No rejection could destroy your confidence. No delay could make you question your future. No failure could stop you from moving forward. That is the freedom Stoicism offers. Not freedom from problems, but freedom from becoming their prisoner. And once you experience that kind of freedom, you'll realize something extraordinary. The life you've been chasing was never waiting at the end of the journey. It was waiting for the moment you finally mastered yourself. Until next time, stay calm, stay disciplined, and as Marcus Aurelius reminded us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. I'll see you in the next video.